The recording is on. So, Angel, thank you for joining me to discuss migraine.
My pleasure.
And so we've known each other for a while. I'd like to summarize a bit about what we've done, but focus especially on what you do yourself. Because in this chapter, we're talking about healing symptoms.
Yes.
And so you've had migraines since your mid-20s, on and off. I mean, in easier periods, you would have like one or two every 3 weeks. But
yes.
in very intense periods, you would have them like 1 or 2 times a week even, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's how it was when I came to you. So it was a more intense period.
Exactly. Yes. And so the first thing I would like to, because this chapter is about healing symptoms, and I'm explaining that a lot of the symptoms that we experience that are called diseases or problems are in actual fact healing symptoms. So do you recall when I started explaining to you about the fact that a migraine is a healing crisis? What changed for you when that happened?
It really allowed me to reframe for myself what was going on. So rather than each time that happened compounding that there is in fact something wrong with me, it really, the reframe takes the pressure off you, because having something happening to you which is healing you is just a much more positive way to associate that thing in your life. So it also then allows you to piece together what has happened, which you might be healing from, and then possibly understand those triggers in a much more powerful way.
Yes, yes, indeed. Because you never were worried about the migraines themselves. I mean, you're not worried about having a tumor in your head or anything like that, because some people do. That wasn't the case. But I also point out that if pain is very severe, that in and of itself is a trigger, because you're so, suffering from the pain, really.
Yeah, it's a huge stress for your body to be going through.
Yes, yes. And so I remember when we started working together, I explained that this is a healing crisis. But I also explained to you that we all have what we call a negative core belief.
Yes.
And you were literally shocked to find out that for you, your negative core belief did play a big role in all this.
Yes. Yeah, I was very shocked to find that out.
Yes.
So being someone who is very conscious and aware, that negative core belief had really been I guess playing a big role under the level of conscious awareness. And the proof was in the pudding when we started to work on that the symptoms were relieved to what I would consider a miraculous degree.
Yes, yes. Because if your negative core belief, and I'd like to point out that quite a few people do not realize how big a role it plays, because this is not something that we that especially not doctors will explain to you. Look at your stress. What are you worried about?
Indeed.
And so your negative core belief is literally, I'm not good enough. Am I good enough? Did I do right? Did I do this? Did I do a good enough job? And so in those periods that we did not, we didn't know each other yet, you would experience migraines because you are doing things and you are performing and you are, everything is working out. So you would be very worried about not being good enough. And then something would turn out, pretty well. And then these migraine attacks would occur.
Yes.
Looking back in hindsight, obviously.
In hindsight, yes. So at the time, it never seemed that way.
No.
The way I guess mentally was aware of it was that just trying to be perfect, that I wanted everything to be perfect, which makes so much sense now. I was never thinking, oh, well, I might not be good enough, but I just have to be perfect.
Yes, exactly. Which is
just silly.
Which is the same thing, but then disguised nicely as,
nicely disguised.
Exactly. Let me do my best and, perfect performance, please. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And so the migraines pretty much went away every once in a while. And then only recently we met again. And you told me you had a a really severe migraine attack.
Yes.
To your surprise again, because you were sort of
over it.
Over it, at least thinking
Yes.
you were over it, which of course would happen if you allow yourself to realize what is still stressful, and that needs attention. And being busy with all kinds of stuff that sometimes sort of slips to the background, and then you're surprised again with, in this case for you, a migraine attack, which just helps you, because these are pointers. So this just help you to realize that you did have severe stress, and you don't always have to work with EFT on whatever happened, because if we summarize what happened in this case, you were preparing to homeschool your daughter.
Yes.
Because of all the let's summarize it shortly, all the nonsense going on and the stupid things they want children to do in school. You really do not want her to be part of that. So this is why you decided to homeschool her, correct?
Yeah, that was a big part of it. There was a lot of stuff that we just wanted to do because homeschooling was better, but there was a very strong element of wanting to not be a part of that anymore.
Exactly. And you're divorced from her father, but apart from it being a very big job to get all things done, all the documents and whatever else, there was this really intense, stressful situation around him not agreeing, or you being fearful that he would not agree to homeschooling, yes. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
And so if you look at the underlying emotional conflicts, one of the most important conflicts is frontal fear conflict, which means something is approaching you and you feel powerless to change it. And that would tie in nicely with how you felt around him not agreeing.
Yes, yes.
Did he literally tell you he wouldn't want you to homeschool, or how did that go?
It was a situation where I said that I would like to do it and wanted to have a chat to him about it. And then he kind of waited a really long time to reply. So there was a period of, I guess, about 10 days maybe, where I was trying to move ahead with my plans to do it, but I was waiting for him to get in contact. And in the meantime, he'd let my daughter know that he didn't think that I had the mental capacity to homeschool her, and I didn't care about her enough to homeschool her. So I had that part of the puzzle, and then had to wait to have the communication where I was actually going to explain what I wanted and get his agreement to go ahead with it.
Yes. And the way he was handling this reminds you of other stuff with him, and that was, it's a stressful situation to be in. And then again, also, I mean, the other stuff, what is happening in the world is also stressful.
Yes, yes.
But if we look at it time-wise, and so I just mentioned frontal fear. I'm looking at my notes because the other one is feeling powerless, which is also playing a part. The other one would be what we call a stinking conflict, which means this smells bad. There's something wrong here.
Yes.
Yes. In Holland, in Dutch, we would say it has a smell. It smells.
Yeah.
And so it sort of fits with how you felt.
Really does. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And then all did get organized. He did agree. You started homeschooling, and boom, massive migraine attack.
Yes, a very bad one. Yeah.
Yes.
And it all makes so much sense in hindsight.
Yes. But you were a bit worried when we met.
Yeah, yes, because it had been so bad and it had made me so sick.
Right.
So I think also I had been spoiled by the fact that I hadn't had one for so long, and this one was nasty. Like it had some extra features that I think I hadn't had for a long time. So yeah, there was a little bit of concern around that.
So all in all, the whole problem and frontal fear of not being able to homeschool your daughter and having her, subjected to whatever is happening in the outside world, and her father not agreeing, that got resolved. You're homeschooling and you're loving it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's right. Every day is amazing.
Yes.
So yes, it went from a period of extreme stress and anxiety around that to a complete relief on all fronts.
Exactly. I just want to point out that part got resolved really nicely. However, the situation in the world has not got resolved. So I'm just pointing out, and also for the people that are looking at this little interview, because that is still ongoing.
Yes.
Once, important areas in that field get resolved, you might experience a migraine unless you're able to really, keep an eye on how stressful these situations are and really work with EFT to keep the stress levels down so that you do not need to go through another healing phase.
Yes. That would be my intention for sure.
Exactly. Yes. And then, obviously for a lot of people, including me, that needs a lot of attention because these are very stressful times. Stressful times. So I'm hoping for a lot of people to discover that EFT at least helps you stay out of, massive stress so that you don't have to go through healing phases because of this. So what I would also like to look at for a moment is you do a lot of EFT. You were familiar with tapping before we worked, and you do a lot of optimal EFT with the meditation, the unseen therapist. How do you do it in practice? Do you still use both?
I mainly use my the optimal and the meditations because I feel like I've had such a huge transformation using that tool. With tapping, I feel like it's a really good support and something that it can be in the moment easier to actually put into place really quickly if you've got something that is stressing you out or even a physical symptom. If you can't get to a situation where that quiet meditation is possible. So I bring the tapping in a lot in a situation like that.
Right. So since you've been doing optimal EFT and meditating with unseen therapist, for you that works more strongly, I would say, more transformational.
Absolutely.
But you still use the tapping.
Yes, but definitely as a support, I wouldn't sit down and have a tapping session, so to speak. Whereas I will sit down and do multiple sessions using optimal EFT to work on something that I actually want to bring a level of healing to. Whereas I probably wouldn't sit down and do that with tapping.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, so I think we pretty much covered the whole migraine.
Great.
Is there anything you wanted to add to this?
I think that we probably covered that earlier on, is that just it is so powerful when you're able to look at it from that different perspective, that it is a healing response that your body is going through. And so that then allows you to identify those things that trigger that to happen in the first place so that you can work on those so that it releases the need for the symptom or the crisis to happen in the first place. So I think it's a really, really important takeaway.
Excellent. Well, nothing to add to that. So, Angel, thank you so much for this interview.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for everything that you have done.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and it still is.